In the latest chapter, the heroes of UA faced a desperate battle against the army of clones created by Toga. However, in a surprising twist, Toga finds redemption through Ochako, forming a genuine bond with her. In a selfless act of sacrifice, she performs a blood transfusion that saves Ochako's life, causing all her clones to vanish and preventing a continent-wide catastrophe. All for One, after eliminating several heroes, attempts to reunite with Tomura, but his path is blocked by All Might. Though he no longer possesses his former power, the symbol of peace stands before his enemy wearing a specially designed combat armor. His aged body and limited strength contrast sharply with his indomitable spirit, inspiring courage and hope in everyone who witnesses his stand. The clash between the two becomes a true battle of legends. Using the full capabilities of his suit, All Might endures the villain's attacks and even manages to limit his regeneration, striking with the same ferocity he once had in his prime. But All for One retaliates with overwhelming fury, severely damaging the hero's armor. Still, All Might refuses to give in. He re-equips himself with an upgraded, massive version of the suit, transforming into a metallic scorpion with energy thrusters and tentacles capable of anchoring to any surface. As the battle reaches its peak, the entire world watches in awe and fear. All Might releases all his remaining energy in a desperate attempt to completely destroy the villain's body and end his regeneration once and for all. Yet, sensing his intent, All for One launches a barrage of brutal attacks that nearly obliterate him. Amid the chaos, the hero counterattacks using a combat drone infused with the power of Star and Stripe, America's strongest hero, combining multiple quirks to strike back and disrupt the villain's healing. Meanwhile, on another front, Aoyama and Toru take on Kunieda, whose power has devastated the defensive lines. Determined to prove his worth, Aoyama activates his quirk without relying on his belt, while Toru reflects his light beams using her invisibility, burning away the enemy's plans and achieving a miraculous victory. After the fight, Toru notices part of her body becoming visible, leaving her shocked and embarrassed, while the two prepare their next move to burn the remaining flowers and save the fallen heroes. Back in the city, All Might, gravely injured and with his armor shattered, still stands tall before All for One, who prepares his final attack. Everything seems lost, until in that very moment, an unexpected figure appears to aid the hero, reigniting a spark of hope that could change the fate of the battle and the entire world. Through a flashback, we see Stain's perspective and learn that he had been following the course of this final confrontation from the very beginning. After a long search, he managed to obtain All for One's blood and used it to activate his quirk, paralyzing the villain for a brief moment. But why would Stain, known for his hatred of false heroes, help All Might? Stain explains that his ideology is to support only those who possess a true sense of justice, something All Might perfectly represents. Even as a powerless man, he continues to risk his life to protect the weak. Back in the present, All for One overcomes the paralysis by forcing his own blood out and replacing it with one modified with antigens, rendering Stain's quirk useless. He then slams Stain through several buildings and proceeds to steal his quirk, killing him in the process. With his dying breath, Stain entrusts All Might with ending the war once and for all. Meanwhile, All Might's Hercules armor sacrifices itself to protect him, saving his life but leaving him critically wounded. Despite the overwhelming odds, All Might refuses to give up. He recalls his teacher, his fallen comrades, and all those who once believed in him. Their memory fuels his resolve even as his body fails. His spirit stands unbroken. All for One, realizing that nothing now stands in his way, plans to merge with Tomura Shigaraki to create a stronger, unstoppable version of himself. However, Tomura rejects the idea, driven by his own pride and his desire to defeat Midoriya with his own hands. Enraged, All for One decides to force the fusion and in a cruel display of dominance shows All Might's broken body to the world, a psychological weapon meant to crush the hero's morale. Seeing his mentor so brutally defeated fills Midoriya with pain and rage. Remembering how All Might once gave him hope when he had none, he vows not to let that light die. Despite his battered body, All Might clings to All for One and tries to detonate what's left of his armor to take the villain down with him. Yet All for One uses Stain's very own quirk against him, paralyzing him and stopping the self-destruction. Then with one devastating strike, All for One shatters the airborne stronghold, sending it crashing toward the ground. The remnants of Star and Stripe's squad attempt to stop him, but they are instantly overwhelmed. The world watches in horror as the symbol of peace stands moments away from death. But just when all hope seems lost, a sudden explosion bursts through the wreckage of the airborne coffin. Emerging from the flames is none other than Bakugo, signaling not only the end of an era, but the beginning of a new one. As the final battle between the heroes and All for One rages on, the entire world watches in anticipation. Although many remain indifferent, the chaotic climate changes caused by the fight begin to spread, even threatening to reach the United States. Faced with this, humanity slowly unites, praying for All Might and Japan's heroes to prevail. Amid the chaos, Midoriya and Bakugo exchange a single glance before launching a coordinated attack, risking their lives to rescue All Might from the villain's grasp. Though Tomura insists that All Might's death is inevitable, people's faith does not waver. They see in Bakugo and Midoriya the last glimmer of hope. Against all odds, Bakugo manages to pull All Might away from All for One, a heroic act that shocks everyone, especially All Might himself. In that moment, he realizes that his era as the world's symbol of peace is coming to an end, and that the next generation is ready to carry on his legacy. Severely wounded, Bakugo clings to life thanks to Shinya, who sacrifices his own body to repair the young hero's vital organs, including his heart. Moved by Bakugo's determination, All Might shares part of his Hercules armor with him, restoring the use of his arm and reviving the spirit of the symbol of peace through a shared smile. Meanwhile, furious over his failure, All for One attempts to fuse with Tomura, but the younger villain refuses, creating even more chaos. Bakugo's explosive return completely disrupts the enemy's plans. His quirk has evolved to the point of matching All for One's speed, turning him into a new beacon of hope for the heroes. Elsewhere, Japan's defense forces begin to recover, and news arrives that several hero divisions have successfully contained the League of Villains, though not without casualties. Despite the heavy losses, the hero's resolve remains unbroken. Realizing that his body is reaching its limit, Midoriya gathers every ounce of power left in him for one final strike, an attack that could decide the fate of the entire world. At the same time, All for One looks down on Bakugo, underestimating him as an insignificant obstacle. Yet, that arrogance becomes his greatest weakness. Driven by his will to protect, Bakugo now matches the villain's might, proving that even a human can stand. As the world watches in fear and hope, including Bakugo's parents, All for One is suddenly reminded of his brother Yoichi, a memory that stirs both anger and sorrow within him. And though he takes a devastating hit, the villain reveals that he's still not finished. The story takes us into a flashback revealing the tragic origins of All for One. Even before his birth, his existence brought disaster. His mother suffered severe deformities caused by the power growing inside her, leading her to take her own life. Despite this, All for One and his twin brother Yoichi were born and somehow managed to survive during an era when quirks were just beginning to appear among ordinary humans. In those early days, fear toward people with powers ran rampant. Ordinary humans viewed mutants as monsters, and among them, All for One stood out, a young orphan who used his quirk to kill without mercy. His brother Yoichi, who seemed powerless, pleaded with him to stop the violence, but All for One ignored him, believing himself above everyone else. Despite his cruelty, Yoichi never stopped caring for him, seeing in him the only family he had in a world that despised their kind. Over time, All for One's ambition grew without limit. His obsession with collecting every quirk in existence consumed him, and he eventually proclaimed himself All for One, a self-made symbol of domination. In his hunger for control, he even tried to subjugate his brother by giving him an easy-to-use quirk. However, he didn't know that Yoichi already possessed a unique power, the ability to transfer his quirk to another person. From that fateful moment, One for All was born, a power passed down through generations of heroes, from Kudo, one of the first resistance leaders, to Nana Shimura, then All Might, and finally to Midoriya. Returning to the present, All for One relives these memories while facing Bakugo, who eerily resembles Kudo, the man who once defied him. That resemblance fuels his rage, pushing him to unleash a massive area attack meant to annihilate everything nearby. All Might orders Bakugo to dodge, knowing the blast could kill him, but the young hero already has a plan. During the battle, he had mixed his explosive sweat with the rain, turning every drop that touched All for One into a living bomb that he could detonate at will. Bakugo sets off a chain of explosions, preventing All for One from regenerating completely. Ironically, his own healing ability, once his greatest strength, becomes his downfall. Each time he regenerates, his body rejuvenates further, growing physically weaker. Eventually, the process spirals out of control, and he regresses into an infant, powerless and broken. In the end, All for One's unrestrained ambition consumes him entirely, erasing him from existence and bringing his reign of terror to a definitive close. Exhausted but victorious, Bakugo stands over the battlefield, realizing the true weight of what he's accomplished. Before collapsing, he asks Midoriya to finish what he started, closing one of the darkest chapters in their shared history. After the victory over the villains, Japan and neighboring countries gradually return to normal. A week has passed since the battle, with support heroes from the United States helping rebuild the areas destroyed in the war. Even so, the emotional and physical aftermath remains heavy, especially for those who fought in the final confrontation. Bakugo is left severely injured and may lose his right arm, but his resolve remains firm. He accepts rehabilitation no matter how difficult it may be. Midoriya meanwhile has lost One for All, and with it his power leaving him with deep emotional conflict for failing to save Tomura. All Might comforts him, explaining that Tomura died with a smile, proof that his heart found a final moment of peace, fulfilling the true purpose of One for All. The revelation deeply affects Bakugo, who breaks down in tears, knowing the rival he always chased is now quirkless. Even so, All Might reminds them that both already achieved more than power alone could define. They inspired countless people becoming heroes through their actions, not their abilities. For the first time, Bakugo and Midoriya seem to truly accept one another. School life resumes and the academy celebrates the graduation of the third years, an event filled with joy, nostalgia, and gratitude toward international aid. Aoyama decides to leave UA to atone for his past, but expresses his dream of returning one day as a true hero. His departure welcomes new faces, such as Shinso and Amohawata, marking a fresh beginning for the class. The story turns personal, with the Todoroki family visiting Toya, whose life hangs by a thread after the battle. Endeavor renounces his career as a pro hero and chooses instead to rebuild himself as a father. Witnessing the genuine warmth of his family, Toya breaks down in tears. After years of resentment, forgiveness finally finds room to grow. Though scars remain, both physical and emotional hope now guides their path. What follows is healing, not alone but together. After the war, public opinion is split. Some blame the heroes for not stopping Tomura sooner, while others are simply grateful that things didn't end even worse. Midoriya, still affected by his emotional connection to Shigaraki, visits Spinner, who breaks down when he accepts that Tomura, beyond being a villain, was just a child shattered by pain. Both realize that his story deserves to be told with humanity, not only as a symbol of destruction, but as the broken soul behind the monster. They even consider creating a book or comic to preserve his memory. Meanwhile, UA resumes its activities and welcomes new students. Bakugo and Shoto have become campus celebrities, though it's Midoriya who inspires the new generation the most. Even so, he continues to struggle with mixed feelings of pride and guilt. Students join the efforts to rebuild the city, and some heroes slowly recover, like Bakugo and Shinso. In return, the people support them with food and gratitude as they help rebuild what the war destroyed. However, not everything is hopeful. Ochako hides deep pain after her confrontation with Toga. She believes she never truly saved her and decides to leave hero school. Midoriya finds her quietly crying and reminds her of her worth, allowing both of them to share their grief and guilt. She for Toga, he for Tomura. They lean on each other emotionally, acknowledging that they too deserve care and compassion. Their moment is interrupted when their classmates arrive, revealing that Midoriya still retains a small remnant of one for all that will eventually fade. But now Class A is more united than ever, and at last they can begin to live not just as soldiers of war, but as students, friends, and young people who still have a future to build.